Hello, everyone. My name is Felicia Williams. I am the founder and owner of Seed to Fruit Education, a educational service provider for adults who work with students or other individuals that have disabilities. So at Seed to Fruit, we are really, I like to think that we are advocates for educators and for caregivers, family members that work with, again, students who have some sort of disability or who have a struggle with learning or behavior disorder of some sort. Oftentimes, you would see that show up in a student that's been diagnosed like with autism spectrum disorder or ASD. So things of that nature. Just a little backstory about myself. I am an educator. I work with the preschool classroom. I've been an early child educator for over 20 years. And during that time, I really had to reflect, go through all of the processes of grief to come up with better solutions for myself and even helping others that may have had struggles with their classrooms. So all of that just kind of culminated into me wanting to play more of an active role in helping other educators. There's a lot of help out here for students and for families. There's a lot of advocacy and programs, but I don't see a lot for teachers. Like, we are the frontliners. We're the ones that have to deal with a lot of things first that are hitting the classroom. So why isn't there more advocacy for people like us? Well, I want to be a part of that solution. So here it is. I'm giving you this information via post because it came across my quote unquote desk, and I thought it was good, and I thought, maybe this might be helpful for someone else. So my coworker sent me this article in the email, and it came from a blog site. The name of the blog site is called The Discovery Source, and the name of the article was "Why Won't the Kids Listen? Simple Steps for Reframing Classroom Management." Now that got me right there, and it just lit me up inside. I have this picture here because I'm a very visual person, and so when I say lit up, this is what I felt like, and this is what it looked like inside my body. The reason is because I'm always looking and on the hunt for resources that help with making sure that I'm showing up in the right way when it comes to classroom management. So this blog was featuring a book, and the name of the book was called Push Past It: A Positive Approach to Challenging Classroom Behaviors. The author is a Dr. Angela, I believe it's Searcy, and she is a doctorate of education. Why am I all excited about this book? Well, it says it in the title, A Positive Approach to Challenging Classroom Behavior. And it almost sounds like an oxymoron. How can you ever what can you find positive in any classroom behavior that's challenging, right? So I think about that all the time because, as teachers, we oftentimes have our moments where we are being challenged. Oftentimes the students know us well enough to know how to push our buttons, and when they push them, we're triggered and we're all, crazy. And we're trying to hold it together, but not all the time show up as our best selves. So again, I felt like this was a good resource to share out with others. And I took the other thing and the final thing that really told me that this was a credible source is as I was reading through some of the excerpts from her book, I was identifying myself, meaning that there are a lot of things that I have sought after in order to be a better educator. This book it gives like 4 different quick ideas or strategies for how to front load yourself and prepare yourself for what's going to happen. We process things differently and in a more intense way when we write. So Yes, I know you've heard it before, but journal it. And this doesn't have to be like really intense, just for the sake of kind of going running through these four suggestions. I'm suggesting to you, write it down. So name those feelings when you're in the heat of a particular moment where the child, you're working with a student, and they've just completely ignored you, probably made you feel like, you're the lowest thing walking since an ant. You need to figure out, what are those feelings? Were you angry? Were you frustrated? Did you start to feel your self-esteem going down? Whatever it was. Then the next suggestion is explain it. After you've reflected on all those feelings, go back and think about what caused that feeling. Is it truly the incident that happened with that student, or was that incident with that student merely a trigger for something else? And then why? Why do you feel degraded? Why do you feel upset? Why do you feel sad or, angered? A lot of times when students are not following directives, we feel disrespected. But why do we feel disrespected? Because them not following that directive in the moment, does that mean that you're less of a teacher or less of a person? Because again, sometimes these things are just moments. They're not your entire career. So we have to kind of bring things into perspective, right? The third suggestion is tame it. So think of things that you can do while you're in, when you're in those moments of frustration, and how you can bring your body and your mind and your heart down. We teach a SEL curriculum, or a social emotional learning curriculum, and one of the things that we always talk about is how to calm down. So when you are in that moment, it's very important that you don't let your emotion, whatever it is, overtake you. Find a way to break away from that moment briefly, even if it's just for a minute, to either definitely, if you don't have any deep breathing exercises, you can always Google it. You can go on YouTube. One thing that I do in my room a lot is I have soundscape music playing a lot during the day, because when you are listening to those kind of meditative sounds, you instinctively start breathing deeper, especially when you started feeling agitated. You're listening to some, peaceful sounds, and you almost automatically want to go, you know what I'm saying? So having peaceful music playing in the background, if you're able to, often helps with calming things down, while frustrating things are happening, in your classroom. That one was for free. That's my little suggestion. The fourth idea that came from the book was reframing. I love this. I think this is a really good suggestion. It really talks about, when it says reframe, activating the problem solving part of your brain, because when we get in those situations where that student is really kind of running you around that room, and they are being obstinate, and they're refusing, and just sometimes having a full-blown tantrum, you are just ready to run through walls. You want to lose it, right? But we can't, because we're professional. And who is the adult in the room? Guess what? You are. So we have to think about, in those situations, moving forward, how can we front load ourselves and prepare ourselves for the drama that may come with giving an instruction and the child not following through with it, right? So some of the things that in the blog, the author says, you got to keep in mind, these are children, and children disobey. There's nothing new. So don't make a bigger deal out of it than what it really is. It's, I've often was told when I was growing up, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm sure some of you have heard that before. So in other words, if there's a situation that's happening in your classroom, like you ask a child to sit down and do some table work, and they're just refusing, they're running around the room, Okay, that's probably not the first time they've done that. But now you're going to prepare yourself for if that does happen again. Here's some little tools in my tool belt that I can use to help reframe that situation. So, also, another suggestion was think about the power struggle. A lot of times, what children really get off on and why they can really push our buttons because they like that power struggle game. If they can get you off, if they can get you to raise your voice or to get frustrated, and children know us so well. If they can push that little button, boop, and you go off, oh, that they love it. So don't play that power struggle game with them. Maybe there's an alternate way that you can get your directive followed. Maybe there's another way to win the race without having it done just your way. An example of this may be if you want your child, a lot of times in the morning, we have our students write their name, right? And sometimes they come in, they don't want to write their name. So yeah, they should be writing their name, but maybe they're not ready right then. So a lot of times we'll say, okay, well, we'll give you 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe you want to do something else. And when you're finished with that, I'm going to need you to come back to the table and write your name again. And a lot of times when we give them an alternate choice and they're able to make a different choice, but still come back to what we need them to do anyway, they go ahead and they follow through. Another example is if you are in a situation where you need the child to listen and they're just going off, they're having a temper tantrum, maybe walk away from them for a moment. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily ignore them or let them be in a dangerous situation. But if they're just kind of rolling around on that floor and they're going at it, or maybe they're sounding off, expressing their feelings very loudly and with much venom, you move on to what you're doing and let that pass and let them calm down and let yourself calm down before you readdress the situation, right? There are always different ways that we can reframe the situation so that it does not become a power struggle and it doesn't become a whole episode in your classroom, right? So those were some of the suggestions that I have, and also some of the other suggestions that came from the book. Now, I'm going to do this with you because after reading it myself and now talking about it with you, I'm going to go ahead and go into Amazon and I'm going to order the book. I have a Kindle. I'm going to put it on my Kindle. I'm going to add it to my library, my professional library, and I believe I'm really going to get some good information out of here. So I'm going to put the link to this article and to how you can get it on Amazon, or if you can just go to Amazon really yourself and look it up. And I want you to read this blog that I read and also buy this book. And hopefully you can come up with some more strategies to help empower yourself, become the best version professionally and personally that you can be